No one would think that the gifts, the dresses, the trips, and the flaunting of false love in front of society and in social media come with the intention of keeping a victim in a circle of mistreatment, deceit, and manipulation. On many occasions, I was forced to dress in a specific way, since the trophy of the moment had to look very flashy to society. If I didn't, I was minimized by him. This is emotional abuse. I was also very uncomfortable with the way he criticized other women, their clothes, their hair, even their way of being. His pretensions of superiority and grandiosity over others were very obvious. This type of person empties their insecurity and feeds their ego by denigrating others, especially their own victims. They think they are superior. A perfect example of this was seen the way Amber Heard denigrated Johnny Depp in the audios used as evidence during her legal case. Control began to become more evident. He would pressure me and force me to post on social media the fake, perfect relationship we had. If I posted a picture with him and it wasn't accompanied by a caption full of love, it was a problem. And if I didn't post anything with him, it was also a problem, accusing me of hiding him from society. So I had to agree and do what he wanted to avoid drama. Not to mention the professional photo shoots with his targets, with his couples. He had to have professional photos of the perfect couple. The idea is to appear to their environment and to society as a love story. That way, no one suspects the mistreatment that goes on behind a social media post. I had never experienced this before. To feel obligated to pretend a love I didn't feel. To have to prove something so that someone's insecurity would diminish. And so that the world would believe the false love story. I had never experienced this before. In the link of evidence to download, you will see proof of this. At that time, the positive actions covered up the control. This was another red flag. This control and this pushy behavior to post on social media. And it's for this reason that narcissistic abuse is often imperceptible to society, to the family, to friends, because it is a bubble. Also, in their role as the perfect couple, they couldn't miss the constant selfies, group photos, or videos that are captured to give more strength to the relationship. So when the partner, the prey, decides to end the relationship, the captured moments are strategically used to revive the false illusion of the beautiful couple and manipulate the prey to stay. These images are also used to manipulate the environment because in the eyes of the world, if the prey decides to leave, to escape, to break the traumatic circle, then the prey must be the monster in the eyes of society. This became clear to me during the legal battles. He used a lot of photos which I didn't even remember existed or didn't know existed, with the intention of projecting to the judge a supposed cute and healthy relationship that didn't exist. I have learned that a photo means nothing, and even less so when abuse operates behind the scenes. And listen to me, your emotional stability is much more valuable than a fictitious image for social media. Today, I want to confess everything in my story with him. Every post on my social media and every word of love was under his pressure and manipulation. Every word was born out of fear to avoid conflict, a drama, a fight. The few gestures of love that people possibly saw from me were never genuine, and he always knew it, always. For this reason, he reproached me for the fact that I didn't show him love, that I wasn't looking for him. The moral of this story is, don't believe everything you see on social media. It can be deceiving. Many women hide the fact that they are abused, harassed, manipulated, and mistreated behind a big smile and very pretty pictures on their social media. I want to bring as an example this case that moved me a lot, the case of Gabby Petito, a girl with the dream of being a YouTuber. It's really painful because her dream never will be fulfilled. The relationship looked like a dream on social media, like the ideal relationship. Then we saw another dark reality that showed us in a very obvious way the abuse she was suffering. We saw it through police cameras, witness testimonies, and people close to her. This is the reality of many women and men who decide to remain silent out of fear, shame, denial, or the pride of not accepting the hell they lived in. And it's a perfect example of narcissistic abuse. Many psychologists talk in depth about this technique used by narcissists. The false appearance of the perfect relationship. Somehow, this technique causes uneasiness in ex-partners. It confused them into believing that he has changed and is now a splendid man. And the former victims feel that they were the problem. This is called emotional torture, and they use it a lot to stay in contact with their exes. It's all part of a game. Adrenaline and cortisol surges are chemicals that these types of people constantly produce in their victims. They know very well how to upset them, and they do it on purpose. These chemicals are very addictive and can create in them what is known as emotional dependency, the addiction to toxicity. That is why exes fall again. In the process, the ex thinks that she is the one who is wrong and feels insecure and insufficient because if he looks so happy with the new partner, then she thinks, it was me who was wrong. Am I the problem? I'm not enough? I'm the ugly? I'm not in shape? Self-judgments. This is all a strategy, a trap, because after a while, he contacts his exes again, claiming that he is not happy, that there is no one like her. And this is used to give insecurity to the current partner. They can't live without playing with the victims and destroying little by little their self-esteem. So the tactic is to triangulate with the exes, the current one, and many more. Note, narcissistic women do the same thing. They will always tell their new targets that they are not happy with the current partner, or that she is a crazy woman, or any number of made-up complaints and farces. I lived this clearly, and so did she, his ex. He created and fueled confrontation between the ex and the current one, that is between her and me. A strong evidence of this was a video in which he premeditatedly took advantage of her state of annoyance to provoke her and illegally record her. In this way, he managed to capture all the rage and frustration she felt towards me for all the game he was playing between us. recording his victims at convenient times when the victim is acting or reacting in self-defense or when she is in an altered emotional state is another of his techniques. This technique was used during my case of violence with the intention that I would go straight to jail for a false crime, a fabricated crime. I will tell you more about this later. The reactive abuse technique. During the relationship, something that caused me much curiosity and concern is that he kept in his computer with much suspicion and caution some videos in which he had recorded his ex full of anger and frustration. She seemed to be reacting to something he had done, but he was carefully recording her without doing anything. At that time, I didn't understand why he kept those videos. I also didn't understand why she was so upset. It didn't make sense to me that a woman would get that way over nothing. When I would ask him about those videos, he would only reply that she was crazy, that she attacked him, and that was why he had left her. It didn't make any sense to me. Later, I understood that behind recording and saving those videos, there is a whole criminal strategy. You can also see this strategy clearly during the Johnny Depp's trials. As you see in this video, Amber Heard recorded Johnny Depp when he was upset, hitting cabinets due to a bad moment he was going through. Then this video was magically sold to the press and published when the false accusations of violence by Amber Heard started. It is important to understand that these people have calculating minds that can destroy the life of any human being. Dr. Iñaki Piñuel states that narcissistic psychopaths are criminal minds. They think and calculate premeditatedly how they are going to commit and get away with a crime. They are dangerously intelligent. So much that psychologists recommend not to treat them because they could extract new psychological strategies to use with their victims or strengthen their mask before society. And if both he and his partner decide to go to therapy, even psychologists with no experience in narcissistic abuse could fall for it and think that the victim is the problem. And that is why some of them recommend not to treat them. This happened to me as well. In his insistence to continue the relationship with me, a relationship that I couldn't longer stand because of all the mistreatment, betrayals, and abuse, he begged me to help him change. And from my empathic virtue, I made a condition to see a psychologist because something told me that he wasn't right in the head. As a result, the psychologist fell into his game and thought I was the one with the problem because he lied to the psychologist. Sometime later, after I ended up getting beaten up, the psychologist was shocked of not having been able to identify it, at not having been able to identify his pattern of violent behavior. I feel there is a need for mental health specialists to navigate more on the waters of this dangerous pattern of behavior and how to address abuse by narcissistic psychopaths. More victims needed. If he had known my family up close, he would have possibly put them in his pocket, and everyone would think I was crazy to leave a so-called prince like that because that is the mask they show. And if they deceive psychologists, society, how not to deceive the victims? Narcissistic abuse is very covered up. Another type of control I experienced was economic control. For example, in my genuine intention to help him, I got him clients to reactivate his company, and he put me as his secretary as well as his ex. He would tell me that the company belonged to both of us, but in reality, it never did. This was another tactic he used to keep me working for him. At the time, I didn't realize that. He also didn't pay me my fees easily. I always had to demand and claim them. And not only that, sometimes the money I earned working for his company had to be kept in the company's bank account and had to be spent on the relationship, that is, on outings, dinners, trips. He also didn't cooperate easily with things around the house, and if I decided to work for another company instead of working for his company, he offended me and humiliated me. When I just needed to earn my money, I had to pay my expenses and send money to my family in Venezuela. And he hated that I was fighting for my financial independence. He hated that. This is economic control. Predators do this in order to have more control over their victims, and so that they become dependent, economically dependent. This is a type of violence. It's called economic violence. Later in the relationship, I discovered that the mysterious reason he was no longer working for Ricky Martin was because the police was looking for him for a case of violence that occurred in April 2014. He insisted that it had all been a simple altercation. Apparently she, his ex, was the strongest witness in the case. At that time, he told me with great certainty that she wouldn't testify, nor would she testify against him. At the time, I was thinking, what did he do to pull that off? If he wasn't guilty of the crime, or it was a simple altercation, then why was he worried about anyone testifying against him? The truth is that he was begging me to lend him some money so that a lawyer could speed up the process of that case and get it closed. I agreed to lend him the money, and they closed the case. And that is how he went back to dancing with Ricky Martin. Years later, after researching, interviewing the victim, and browsing the police report on that case, I found out that he was in jail for this case. And I also discovered a totally different story about that crime. The report states that he hit a man hard on the head while he was on his back. The blow knocked the man completely unconscious on the ground. The man was trying to avoid confrontation with him and was walking away. The person suffered very serious injuries and permanent disfigurement that took him straight to the hospital. It was a sucker punch. He was drunk, and she, his ex, who saw the whole thing, never testified against him because he apparently had threatened her. I wonder, was this a crime that went unpunished? How many more will there be? How many people die from a blow to the head? Is this person violent and dangerous for society? These are questions you could answer for yourself. And today, honestly, knowing all this, I even feel guilty for having unconsciously collaborated by lending him money for a lawyer to defend him. And the curious thing was that the lawyer he used in that case wasn't the same lawyer he used in my violence case. I will go deeper into this later. You can also see the arrest warrant and the details of this case in the evidence link. The control didn't stop. At that time, at least I was able to breathe, because thanks to the closure of that case, he started to travel again with Ricky Martin, and they went on tour frequently. But still, the control wouldn't stop. No matter how much I asked, he wouldn't leave me alone. Today, I understand that his jealousy was pathological, full of paranoia. His constant video calls were disguised as melancholy because of the distance. But behind those video calls, there was constant monitoring, invasion of privacy, and total control. He would make me walk around every corner of my apartment through camera to check and confirm that no one was with me. But he would disguise it all with, "I just miss you," and a long list of manipulations. It was humiliating. And if I didn't respond to him, the bombardments, manipulations, and many times insults would start all over social media, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and always assuming that I was being unfaithful if I didn't respond to him. This was a projection of his own insecurities, his actions, and infidelities. Another of the narcissistic psychopath's tactics is at some point in the relationship, they give you their social media, cell phone, and email passwords and everything to supposedly make you feel confident. But it is really to take away yours, control you even more, and make it easier for you to access evidence of their infidelities. And they may even use the passwords to steal money from their prey. And I know it is twisted, yeah, and I won't deny it. It is nerve-wracking. I found out some pretty scary things about him. I had no idea the whole game behind it. It sucked the life out of me. Honestly, it brought out the worst in me. Because those sick behaviors stick. They become the new normal for the victim. This was a toxicity I had never experienced before. He would check my phone and would not allow me to talk to men or keep phone contacts of men. I completely became a person I wasn't. I didn't recognize myself. I lived isolated from the few people who appreciated me in Miami. His constant controls were planted in my subconscious, and I was adapting to the new toxic normal. I saw myself sadly falling into his game, checking his phone and his social media and as well, and this was not healthy, nor is it healthy. In my constant search, I only wanted to unmask his betrayals, hoping to find some infidelity that would serve as an excuse for him to leave me alone and go away. Foolishly, I thought that if I caught him red-handed, I could kick him out of my life and he would finally accept it and leave me alone. Sadly, as much as I discovered his infidelities, he would find perfect ways to brainwash me. He would apply gaslighting, telling me I was crazy, that what I saw was not real, or his insistence and manipulations to get me to forgive him were so unbearable that I had no choice but to fall for it again. But the most complex, the most complicated reason for this whole situation was that we had a work relationship, a professional link. That was the most difficult. You are not alone. If you have gone through unfair, toxic, abusive, and painful circumstances, as I was, I would like to help you recognize, validate, and release those experiences and emotions because you deserve it. Go to the link in the description, maggalife.com/liberation. and get your masterclass and workbook. It's free. Let's start your journey today. With love, Magdiel.